What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel, or welcome here if it's your first time stopping by. We're going to start a new segment here on the channel. It's going to be called the HOC News. The reason we're doing this is because clearly the press is not doing their job. We do not have a free press in this country any longer. Who knows? It's arguable that we haven't had one since the founding, I guess. You could go all the way back. There's always been a political motivation of these people that, you know, whether you want to call them Illuminati or shadow government or deep state or whatever different name you choose to put on these people, these are the people that are controlling things behind the scenes. And it appears that they have a very, very long agenda. It's being done through incrementalism, so it doesn't happen all at once. It's sort of like the boiling frog analogy. You know, you put a frog in a pot of water and it's cool water, right? Then the frog won't jump out. You slowly turn up the heat. The frog begins to boil, eventually dying, not ever noticing that the heat is incrementally going up and up and up. Well, that's what's going on here in the United States and has been going on for decades now. I've made several videos talking about how it was the communists that infiltrated our system. That's one of the sides of things. I mean, it's not exclusively just the communists. A lot of this is people within our own system, like Joe Biden and others, and most of the time they're on the Democrat side of things, although there have been a few Republicans that have steered us the wrong direction as well. But I'm seeing all sorts of news here in the past few days that make me think that the heat has been turned up again. And we're about to become the boiling frogs in the pot if we don't jump out. And that's the whole point of this new series, is to get you guys thinking. I'm not going to read through the entire article because that would be boring. My intention here is to hopefully pique your interest and pique your curiosity. And you won't take my word for it. You'll go and read these articles yourself and do your own investigation and see what kind of conclusion you come up with, because that's what, you know, rational people would do, right? So let's get into the news here. I'm going to warn you right now, it's all pretty dark news. It's all pretty bad, and it's certainly not looking good for the good old United States of America. So first story here, and this is a whopper of a story. Railroad union members vote 99.5% to authorize a July 18th nationwide strike, and that was from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. So that was a little bit of a sensational headline, I'm not going to lie. Well, as we get into this, you'll see. The membership of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen voted overwhelmingly Tuesday to authorize a strike if progress on new labor contract isn't made by the end of the week. The union is one of 13 rail worker unions negotiating a national labor contract after the previous contract expired. So the sensationalism is they're saying 99.5%. They make it sound like all of the union has already decided, and that's not true. Only one out of the 13 groups have decided, but they voted 99.5% to strike. Do you know what that means, guys? We're already in a very precarious situation with the supply chain. We've got truckers that are being underpaid and, overcharged for fuel and all sorts of other stuff. They can hardly find the DEF fluid in certain circumstances in certain states, I'm hearing. And this railroad union is talking about striking. Now, apparently there's some deal that Biden is supposed to address them, and supposedly Biden can make this not happen if he wants to. But do you put it past him? I mean, would you put it past Biden to actually want this strike to happen? I mean, everything else that Biden and his regime has done have indicated to me they're openly trying to destroy the economy, the value of the dollar. They're trying to put massive inflation on. They're trying to charge people more money because, as Barack Obama stated, you know, Biden's shadow puppet master back behind the scenes, Barack Obama, the real president that's behind the scenes, he said back in like 2008 or 9 or something like that, that under my energy plan, your energy prices will necessarily skyrocket. And of course, the whole idea is if you charge people more, then they'll buy less, right? I mean, that's it's a basic economics. It's a sound philosophy. And that's exactly what they're doing to our fuel supply here in the United States of America, our oil, our most abundant natural resource that has made the United States the richest country, the most prosperous country on the face of this earth ever. And they're trying to peck that away, death by 1,000 cuts. So, guys, watch out. If this railroad union decides to strike, it's going to take an already precarious situation in the supply chain and make it way, way, way worse, because lots of stuff, oil, gasoline, coal, all sorts of stuff travels by rail. A lot of the stuff that you buy on Amazon and you get delivered and things like that, it may actually spend some time on a rail car at some point or another. So this could be catastrophic. And of course, a responsible administration would be getting out ahead of this thing. And we would hear Biden and his administration talking about, hey, we're going to be working with some negotiations to try to get these guys to not strike, because that's the most important thing. Now, I read through the article, and they talked about how they haven't actually had a contract for like over 2 years, and that's unusual for this union, but they did that as a result of the whole COVID thing and everything going on. So now the party's about to be over, guys. The railroad union, apparently, according to that article, they're understaffed and overworked. So that's what their main complaints are. Of course, pay as well, but they're running these guys like round the clock, no days off, things like that. A lot of guys have quit, and, just terrible, terrible situation to be in. And so look out, Jack. The railroad may not be coming back. So you might want to stock up on things that you want to have in your cupboard and things like that. You might want to stock up on those now, because I expect things to get way, way worse. So you want to hear about a doomsday scenario? Europe braces for a July 22nd doomsday scenario as Russia begins gas pipeline maintenance shutdown. So the euro drops to a 20-year low. Results could be catastrophic, Gateway pundit. And of course, now that we have this globalization all going on, that, I said back in the day, back in the 90s and stuff, I said, hey, this globalization is a bad idea. But, I didn't have a YouTube channel. Nobody listened to me back then. And a lot of other people that were on my side thought it was a really terrible idea. And now we're starting to see the fruits of that labor, and they're rotten fruits. So whether we like it or not, we are financially connected to what happens in Europe. And so this doomsday scenario in Europe could very easily spill over into the United States, just because we're so connected to them, financially. So this week, Russia began its scheduled 10-day shutdown of the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, which currently supplies the bulk of Europe's natural gas. After just 1 day, the flow of gas has ground to almost a complete halt, with less than 5% of NS1's capacity currently being utilized, according to Bloomberg. To compound the issue, the shutdown comes at a time when Europeans have been hammered by skyrocketing energy costs and inflation across the board. Although the shutdown is routine maintenance, there are serious fears that the ongoing conflict in Ukraine could derail the pipeline from coming back on when it's scheduled to do so on July 22nd. So, guys, Europe, Biden, anybody else that's been basically standing up against Putin because they don't think it's right for him to go into the Ukraine, when in reality, we started this whole deal back in 2014 under Barack Obama, when he sent Victoria Nuland over there to start a color revolution in Ukraine and put someone that was pro-West in, Zelensky. This is ridiculous. This is the rotten fruit of our labor. When our CIA goes out and, basically does regime changes and does these color revolutions and sets them up and funds them and does all sorts of stuff to meddle in other countries' affairs, guess what? The neighboring countries like Russia are going to take notice of that, and they're going to be pissed off. And that's what this whole deal has been all about. We could have stopped this with diplomacy before Russia ever stepped foot in Ukraine. But instead, we poked the bear. Every chance we got, we poked the bear. Biden didn't use one iota of diplomacy to stop any of this stuff. So, you could say that a lot of these deaths are on the hands of the diplomats that failed to do any diplomacy, and that's from Europe and the United States. Instead, they've been poking Putin in the chest, and guess what? That bear's got nukes. We probably ought to not be doing that crap. But what do I know? I'm not some, world strategist or anything like that. When I look at things from my perspective, I can see that Biden did everything, and his administration did everything in their power to make the war happen, not to stop the war. We're supposed to be pro-peace. We're supposed to be like the peacekeepers, right? And try to go in there, cooler heads prevail, right? None of that happened intentionally, because they want this war. I think they want this to turn into World War III, because we all know certain people during wartime, they get way richer. You know, all these weapons contractors and stuff like that, they're gonna make bank. You and I, we're gonna go broke and starve to death probably, according to what they want. Because at the end of the day, all this stuff is about population reduction. All of these elitists have said over and over and over, many times veiled in a veiled way. They don't say it openly oftentimes, but many of these elitists have come out and just said it. There's too many people and they want to do something to stop that. And, you know, I can't even talk about a lot of the things that I'm hearing about the V's and the different things that they're working on and have worked on that actually reduce birth rates and make women sterile so they can't have any children because they're doing the right thing for the earth. Mother Gaia, don't you know? So anyways, guys, we're in a heap of trouble here. Next story. Biden economy. PPI inflation index out today. Highest since March. It's the all-time high. All-time high. So the producer price index for final demand increased 1.1% in June, seasonally adjusted. That's the largest increase since the record 11.6% in March 2022. So again, there's no good signs, no good news. 9.1% inflation, they're saying. When you and I know on most things, it feels like it's more like 20, 25% now at this point. And it's just going to continue to go up. The sky is the limit. And it's not all just that the goods are costing more. It's that your dollar is worth less. And what myself and many others that are paying attention fear is that the dollar will eventually become worthless altogether. It'll just be, I guess you'll use it to light your wood stove or, you know, whatever, wipe your hiney or whatever, you know, whatever it may be. You're not going to be able to eat it. So I advise you, with everything going on, go out and get stocked up. We've made several videos on prepping for beginners and things like that, more advanced people. You should probably go watch those if you don't know what to do, and that will at least give you a starting point. Next up here, we're going to talk about the power grid. I still think that's part of their master plan is to take down the power grid, make Americans suffer as much as they possibly can. So we've got an update here. The Texas grid operator takes emergency measures to avoid rolling blackouts as wind turbines fail to produce energy due to low winds. Huh? Who could have saw that coming? I mean, I am not opposed to wind and solar and other alternative solutions to producing energy. What I don't want to be is dependent on these things because they're not reliable. They're not proven, like coal, natural gas, you know, oil, all these other things that produce power, nuclear, these things that produce reliable power that can power up a whole grid. This is nothing new. I mean, every year it gets to 105, 110 degrees in Texas. This is not the first time this has happened. Why can they not take care of this stuff? Why can they not keep their power on without telling people that they've got to cut down on their energy use? I mean, this is ridiculous. So a Texas grid operator at ERCOT was forced to take an unprecedented emergency measure on Wednesday to avoid rolling blackouts amid a heat wave as wind turbines failed to produce energy due to low winds. ERCOT manages the electric power to more than 26 million Texas customers and represents 90% of the state's electric load. 90%. It's kind of a big deal. And on Monday, ERCOT asked the customers to voluntarily raise their thermostats a degree or two and turn lights off to avoid using ovens, washing machines, and dryers, and unplug appliances if possible during the hours of 2 to 8 p.m. So, we're sorry, we can't provide you enough power. Don't use your oven. Don't cook anything. Turn your your thermostat up to 78. You know, sweat your ass off inside your house. Well, that's not our problem. Unfreaking believable. This is the proof elections have consequences. This is one of them. According to ERCOT, a heat wave along with very low winds is causing the latest conservation alert. Again, this happens every summer. Why are they not prepared for this? Oh, that's right, because the EPA has come in and told them they have to use solar and wind power before they're allowed to use proven methods of producing reliable energy. It's almost as if we're being turned into a third world country intentionally, because that's what it is, guys. Next up, electric cars are now being targeted for overloading the electric grid during an emergency energy crisis. Who could have seen that coming? I don't know. Anybody with more than 2 brain cells could have seen that coming. But for some reason, Biden and his administration and all the people pushing the Green New Deal on everybody, they don't seem to see this. Although I think that's not giving them enough credit. I think they actually do know. They are doing this stuff to destroy the United States of America, our power. You know, a buddy of mine told me, I've said this a couple times, but I can't say it enough. A buddy of mine told me years ago, he was entering into, he was trying to be a lawyer, and he had to go into some classes and different things on the UN to understand the UN. And he said, day one, they cracked the textbook open, and it said, the United States of America has had far too much for far too long. And the UN was going to make it their mission to make sure that the wealth was distributed around the world equally. Not that they raise everybody else up to the level of the United States, but that they take the United States down a notch or two to the level of all the rest of the third world countries. Why is that? So they can control us. So Tesla has asked owners in Texas not to charge their cars during a heat wave to help avoid blackouts and overloading the state's failing power grid. The alert comes as Electric Reliability Council of Texas, ERCOT, called on residents to conserve energy. They asked the state's residents to refrain from using electricity from appliances and more to stop the grid from being pushed to near emergency conditions. Tesla stepped up to help the state with a new in-car alert to owners of the state, encouraging them not to charge during peak hours. So if you've got a Tesla, it's going to come on. Big Brother is going to come in your car and tell you, oh, don't charge your car between 2 and 8. Well, what if that's the only time you have to charge that car? Huh? What if you have a weird work schedule where that's the time that you're home and the time to charge the car, and if you can't charge the car, you can't get to work the next day? I mean, these electric cars are not ready for the masses. They're not ready. I mean, they're still, I think they're good. It's a good thing, you know, to look into this stuff, again, just like the solar and the wind, and look into alternatives. But to force this down the Americans' throats is the problem. And that's what Biden and his regime have been trying to do. Again, it's almost as if somebody behind the scenes, because Biden is not smart enough to pull this off. I mean, did you see yesterday? Again, he was shaking hands with thin air. The guy got lost getting off Air Force One. He can't ride a bike. He can't walk upstairs without tripping up the stairs. I mean, this is a catastrophe. We have the most feeble person we've ever had as leader of the free world in the United States. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I almost dropped the F-bomb there because that's how unbelievable it is. So the last story here, and this is another big one. And I want to know, I want you to ask the question, not just me. I want you to ask the question, where is the American press on this? So why is the American press ignoring the Dutch farmer protests? Well, it's because they hurt the climate fear-mongering campaign. So the American media has failed to report on the Dutch farmers' concerns in any depth, much less address the implications of the protests and the climate policies that triggered them. They don't want to talk about it because it hurts their Green New Deal. That's the short answer of it, guys. These people are hell-bent on destroying the United States of America and bringing in Marxism, communism, socialism, all combined together to destroy our lives, to enslave us. You know, one of the first things that the communists always do is they take control of the food supply, including farmers and things like that, and they starve people out. They starve people out. Hundreds of millions of people have been starved out by communists. I believe it's 200 million, if I'm not mistaken. It's certainly 100 million. Over 100 million people have been starved to death by communists using these tactics that I'm talking about here. And my wife and I were talking here recently. I was going to do a whole video on it, but I don't know if I've got enough content to make a whole video about it. So let's just talk about it right here. We've often wondered when we're watching movies on World War II and we're watching about the concentration camps and how, you know, the Jewish people were rounded up and taken to these concentration camps, put on boxcars and stuff. You know the story, right? How did that happen? Well, it happened the same way it's happening here, through incrementalism. It's divide and conquer, divide everybody up into small groups. The smaller the group, the better. You know, the more divided, the better. Whether that be among race, you know, religion, sex, all these things that we got going on here in the United States. It's not about unity. It's not about bringing us together. It's about division. Everything has been set up and orchestrated in such a way. This is not an accident, guys. I think a lot of people think that there aren't any people like that because they don't think that way. You and I don't think in these nefarious ways where we're like, how can we take over the world? These people do. These elitists do. And not only do they think about it, they're implementing this shit on a world scale. Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, George Soros, on and on and on. All of these elitists, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, these people are hell-bent on our destruction. And until the American people and the rest of the world wake up to this, we're going to continue marching right into their cattle cars, into their train cars. And one day, I hope it doesn't come to this, but one day you may wake up and you may be in a FEMA camp or a concentration camp, being reconditioned, re-educated, as they like to call it. They may be rewilding the United States of America, taking your farmland away from you, taking your ability to be self-reliant, self-sufficient away from you. They hate self-reliance and self-sufficiency. They want to destroy you. Things ain't looking good on any front. Prepare now, because eventually you're not going to be able to go to the bank. Eventually there's going to be a run on the banks like there is in China right now. I mean, there are just so many other stories that I could have included into this that are, any one of them by themselves are catastrophic. And I just read you 6 or 7 stories there that, in my opinion, will usher in the end of freedom, the end of liberty, the end of the republic. I'm reminded of the Ben Franklin quote. A woman asked him right after they signed the Constitution into law and all this stuff. She goes, well, Mr. Franklin, what did you give us? He said, a republic if you can keep it. We're at the point now we may not be able to keep the republic, guys. I don't know if this is going to end with civil war, World War III, any number of things. Just famine. That's what it looks like to me. Starving us out. Elections have consequences. I mean, this is just amazingly catastrophic. You can't make this stuff up. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please prep like there is no tomorrow, because at some point there won't be. I'm seeing more and more pictures around the country, empty shelves, things that used to be there, not there anymore. So if you want to live, if you want to eat in the future, you better prepare. And to all these people that are like lone wolves or whatever they're talking about now, I think these people aren't realizing that a lot of preppers didn't just prep up on food. They prepped up on firepower and ammo to protect that food from these lone wolf people that are going to, wolf preppers or whatever they're calling them, that are going to come around. Their whole philosophy is just to come to steal from others. They're going to be in for a rude awakening when they find out it's not going to be so easy to steal from some people. And I hope you're set up already. I hope you're already prepared and you got food stacked to the ceiling. I think we're going to need it. I think we're heading into a famine. We're heading into a potential famine anyways. A collapse of everything. Do what you can while you can, because time is running out. I appreciate you tuning in. Hit the thumbs up if you like it. Share this video. Hopefully it'll help wake some people up. I don't know. I mean, I'm at the point now where if you're not awake at this point, you're going to get hungry real soon, and I'm not going to feel sorry for you. So let me know what you guys are thinking about this stuff down in the comments. What's your prediction? How much longer can the United States last with everybody in the boiling water, or with death by 1,000 cuts happening every single day and no one even reporting on it most cases? So appreciate it. Until then, I stand for liberty. I hope you do too. We'll see you next time.